Although I love my Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch's online service has had a bit of a rocky start, to say the least. Of course, it was unveiled during a Nintendo Direct what the Nintendo Switch's online service was going to entail, and a lot of people were a bit disappointed with what they saw. Nintendo then uploaded a segment of their Nintendo Direct to showcase the trailer for the Nintendo Switch's online service on their YouTube channel, which quickly got a lot of dislikes. There was a lot of negative feedback in the comments section, but Nintendo didn't really learn their lesson. They've actually re-uploaded that video again. They've cut out segments of the video and uploaded it again, and it just seems to get the same sort of backlash every time they do it. But now Nintendo's President Furukawa actually stated in their latest financial briefing some things about Nintendo Switch's online service, and looking over what he said, I think there's a bit of a disconnect. I don't think Nintendo understands what the problem is with Nintendo Switch's online service and why they're getting so much negative feedback towards the service and why some consumers are a bit disappointed in what they are getting. So what did President Furukawa say that makes me think this way? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you check out the pinned comment in the comment section down below to enter to win a $100 eShop gift card in a giveaway, and let's get into this topic.
Hey, RGT 85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards! So like I said, during Nintendo's latest financial briefing report, President Furukawa actually spoke about Nintendo Switch's online service. He actually had a lot of things to say about the service, and reading over this, it's kind of worrying and kind of troublesome to sort of see their position on what Nintendo Switch's online service is doing and how they sort of just gloss over any sort of problems with it. So what did President Furukawa say? Let's talk about it right now. President Furukawa said the following when it came to Nintendo Switch's online service. We think Nintendo Switch Online had a good launch, but the service has only just begun, so we have no plans to disclose any current subscriber ratios or number of subscribers at this time. Our objective for launching the service is to bring more games, more features, more fun to Nintendo Switch. Our focus at this point is boosting the appeal of the service. We need to further enhance the content of the service for the subscriber base to reach a certain size, so that is what we are working on, with the understanding that the time it will take to do so will be measured in years. As for the kind of service this will develop into in the future, Nintendo Switch Online is essentially a digital service, but we are also offering controllers specifically for use with Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo Switch Online, exclusively to subscribers of the service. We see the need to develop the service beyond being merely digital, in ways plays to our strengths as a company that operates as an integrated hardware and software business. Okay, so reading over this statement, I see a lot of things that are kind of worrying when it comes to Nintendo Switch's online service. First and foremost is the fact that it's had a good launch. I think it's had a good launch just based out of necessity. If you want to play games like Mario Kart 8 Online, Splatoon 2, your heavy hitter Nintendo games, or even your third-party games, you have to have Nintendo Switch's online service. And they priced it at a very reasonable price point. I think that's definitely one of the best things about Nintendo Switch's online service, is when you look at things like PSN and Xbox Live, it's a fraction of the price. I think I paid $20 for a full year of Nintendo Switch's online service. So that's good in that respect. And obviously you had a big install base when you launched the subscription service as well that made people switch over to getting the online service if they wanted to continue to play their online games that they had been playing previously. But things like more games, more features, more fun, there's a lot of different ways to tackle that. First and foremost, one of the biggest problems with Nintendo Switch's online is the sort of bait and switch that we saw with the Nintendo Switch's online service. No pun intended on the bait and switch part. Because leading up to the service, you had people like Reggie from Nintendo of America saying that Nintendo Switch's online service would be robust. And what we ended up getting was not robust at all. It was very, very bare bones. More bare bones than things like the original Xbox Live for the original Xbox. So more games, more features, more fun. One of the things that is touted in this is more games. I guess getting the NES games is a positive thing. Of course, it is nice to have a collection of NES games on your Nintendo Switch, but of course there is the whole thing that you can't play with random people when playing online. So you're sort of restricted in what you can do. You can play, of course, with friends on your Nintendo Switch's friend list, or you can play with local people in local multiplayer. But the lack of random people online is really strange to me as well. More features. What features are we saying that we're getting more of? Yes, you added in online cloud saves. Yes, you added in the NES games online. But really, beyond that, you haven't really done anything. and that sort of goes back to that robust part. These things aren't very robust. Having a way to play some digital NES games, I'm pretty sure we've been doing that since the Nintendo Wii. Speaking of the Nintendo Wii, the Wii U, and the 3DS, all of those have more robust online systems than what the Nintendo Switch's online service currently offers. And it's not like the Nintendo Switch's online service launched alongside of the Nintendo Switch. It took over a year and a half for this service to come out. So this was the best thing that you could come up with after a year and a half on the market. Obviously, they were planning this way before the launch of the Nintendo Switch as well. This was something that they had been planning and talking about because it was actually delayed. So what was the delay for? You know, you're not really implementing more features into this thing. And more fun. Fun is very subjective, but fun really sort of comes down to being able to play your games online in a streamlined way. And the Nintendo Switch doesn't really offer that right now, and that's a big problem. So their main focus right now is boosting the appeal of Nintendo Switches Online to get more people involved in it and to get more people to get it. But in order to do that, you have to add more incentives, because right now what is being offered obviously isn't incentive enough for some people to want to join Nintendo Switch's online program. So in order to do that, you have to add more stuff. And you might be saying to yourself, well, they just added, you know, YouTube to the Nintendo Switch, but that has nothing to do with Nintendo Switch Online. That's a separate program. That's a separate entity that is just free. You don't have to have Nintendo Switches Online to access things like YouTube or free-to-play games like Fortnite and Paladins. All of those supersede Nintendo Switches Online service. So I don't really understand how you're going to create more appeal if you're not willing to talk about things that are obviously issues and address things that are issues with Nintendo Switches Online service. Another thing I'm not really a big fan of is touting the fact that you could get these NES controllers to play the NES games on your Nintendo Switch. That is, of course, only available to people who are subscribers of Nintendo Switch's online service. So while it's kind of cool and kind of a novelty, there's so many other controllers out there that are a fraction of the price that you can use, like an 8-bit DOE controller, which is the same freaking thing that the NES controllers will be. Or you can even just use your Joy-Con to the side. There's so many different controller options out there. To sort of limit that to just subscribers of the service seems a bit strange in my opinion. And of course, you have to order 2 of them. You can't just get a single one. So after getting Nintendo Switch's online service, they want you to spend more money to get these novelty controllers that you probably won't use all that much and that only work with the NES games. But I digress. You know, it's not all doom and gloom with Nintendo Switches Online. I do think it's somewhat decent, but there's so many problems that just Nintendo doesn't seem to realize. Of course, the whole voice chat situation, having to use your phone, and of course, Reggie going on record saying, well, everywhere you go, you have your phone and you take your Nintendo Switch with you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, looking at that statement, let's just think about a few things here. First off, the Nintendo Switch is not a dedicated portable system. It is a hybrid system. People like to play the Nintendo Switch at home because a lot of the games look better playing on your television than they do on the screen. That's just a fact. Even first-party Nintendo games like Super Mario Odyssey run better on your television than they do in handheld mode. But even if you are just taking into account the handheld mode side of things, if you have your Nintendo Switch with you, then you probably have your cell phone with you. But why should I use something else when the Nintendo Switch can natively do voice chat? And the fact that things like this aren't being addressed by Nintendo is definitely very worrying. Another thing that I think is a big thing that's missing out on Nintendo Switch's online service is, where are these exclusive deals that they had been talking about? Is something like the NES controllers to play the NES games online the only sort of exclusive deals? I think a lot of people were expecting exclusive game deals, you know? Like if you have PlayStation, if you have the PlayStation online service, you get exclusive game deals, you get discounted games. Same thing with Xbox Live. Those things offer a lot more. And yes, they are more expensive. I know that's definitely something that is looming over a lot of people's minds. But the fact is, those things are more expensive, but they offer a lot more in terms of features and fun. And games, more features, more fun. You see what I'm getting at here? Like, I don't think Nintendo really understands why people are so upset about Nintendo Switch's online service, because if they did understand it, they would probably try to say something to sort of alleviate these fears and maybe even hint at what sort of things to expect, because right now it looks like we're getting these NES controllers for subscribers only. It looks like you're going to get some more NES games. You're going to get a couple NES games every month, and that's pretty much it. So I don't really see how they're going to stretch the appeal of this unless they really put into motion some good ideas and some improvements to the system, because as of right now, it definitely needs a lot of work. A lot of people are kind of sick and tired of having to use their phone and things like that. It's okay if it was an option, but as a mandatory thing, I just don't know. So I just think there's a disconnect going on here. I don't think Nintendo of Japan really understands what is wrong with Nintendo Switch's online service. And it's decent for what it is, but it could be so much better with just a few small improvements and a few small changes. It would be universally accepted instead of universally disliked. But that's just my opinion on the subject. Let me know in the comments section down below how you feel about Nintendo Switch's online service. Do you think I'm looking too deep into this? Do you think that there will be some sort of improvements coming up in the near future? Or do you think that Nintendo is just screwing the pooch with this, especially considering how much more robust the Wii U, the 3DS, and of course the Wii's online services were compared to what we have with the Nintendo Switch? Remember, you can't do parties and you can't do messages to your friends on the Nintendo Switch, but you could do it on those other systems. Interesting. And as always, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Later.